Some places weren't built for people. No flights, no docks, no way in, and honestly, no way out either. Just open water in every direction, and something sitting at the end of it waiting. Today, we're ranking the 5 hardest islands to reach on the entire planet, easiest to hardest. And look, by the time we get to number 1, you'll understand why some of these places go years without a single human footprint. These aren't just remote, they're cut off by distance, by weather, by dangerous water, and in some cases by the law itself. We ranked them on 5 things: how far they are from civilization, how little transport exists, how violent the ocean gets, how hard it is to actually land, and whether a government is standing in your way. All right, number 5. Most people have never heard of Jan Mayen, and that's kind of the whole story right there. This Norwegian island is just sitting alone in the Arctic Ocean, somewhere between Norway and Greenland, with no public airport, no harbour that won't try to kill your ship, and whether that doesn't gradually get worse, it just jumps to catastrophic. Getting here means either pulling in a military favour for a flight you probably won't get, or booking onto an Arctic expedition vessel that can handle force 10 storms without blinking. The island's population, 18 people, scientists, military, rotating in and out. Nobody lives there permanently. Nobody visits. But here's the part that gets me. Jan Mayen has one of the most active volcanoes in the entire Arctic. Beerenberg, 2,277 meters tall, always smoking, occasionally erupting. Those 18 people? They live right next to it. Jan Mayen is hard to reach, but the next island, it doesn't just require an expedition. It requires a multi-week ocean crossing just to get close. 4. Pull up a map of the Atlantic. Find the dead center of nothing. That's Tristan da Cunha. This is, officially, not just as a saying, the most remote inhabited island on Earth. It sits 2,400 kilometers from the nearest land, 2,800 from South Africa. And there are no flights, not occasionally, not seasonally, never. The only way in is a fishing boat out of Cape Town, 7 days across some of the roughest open water on the planet. And when you finally get there, there's no real harbour waiting for you. Ships anchor offshore, passengers transfer to small boats, and if the weather shifts, which it does constantly, you're not landing, you're turning around. The surprising part, the 250 people who live on this island share only 8 family surnames. Everyone descends from a handful of settlers who arrived in the early 1800s. And in 2023, the island was completely cut off for over 2 months. No boat, no resupply, just storms and waiting. 2 months with no contact. And people still choose to live there, which honestly says something I don't fully understand. 3. Heard Island looks like what happens when a glacier and a volcano have an argument, and neither one backs down. It sits in the Southern Ocean between Antarctica and Madagascar, directly in the path of the roaring 40s and furious 50s. Those aren't dramatic nicknames, they're wind belts, and they're brutal. Waves topping 15 meters, winds at 200 kilometers an hour. The island is simultaneously covered in glaciers and volcanic ash because Big Ben, the active volcano at its center, erupted as recently as 2019. Reaching it means an icebreaker-class ship, a 2-week voyage from Australia, and written permission from the Australian Antarctic Division, which they give to very, very few people. But here's the thing that actually surprised me. Heard Island is one of the last fully intact ecosystems on the planet. No invasive species, no rats, no permanent human presence, ever. And the Australian government? They're deliberately making it harder to reach. Restricting access is the conservation plan. A place kept pristine by keeping people out. 2. Bouvet Island is, statistically, the most remote island on Earth. Let that sit for a second. It's closer to Antarctica than to any human settlement. The nearest inhabited place is Tristan da Cunha, 2,600 kilometers away. It's Norwegian territory. Nobody lives there. And honestly, almost nobody visits. The island is almost entirely covered by a glacier that drops straight off into the sea. 50-meter ice cliffs with nowhere to land. No beach, no harbour, no flat ground of any kind. The only way onto Bouvet is helicopter from a ship. And that ship has to survive seas that have turned back most of the expeditions that ever tried. Some teams have made it. They landed by helicopter, stayed a few hours, that's it. Now, the detail that genuinely unsettled me. In 1964, a British expedition found an abandoned lifeboat on Bouvet Island. No people inside, no shipwreck nearby, no record of any vessel in the area. Where it came from or what happened to whoever was on it, nobody knows. Still unsolved. 1. Okay, so Pitcairn Island. You might have heard of it. 50 people, descendants of the Bounty mutineers, middle of the South Pacific. But 200 kilometers from Pitcairn, there's a neighbor that almost nobody talks about. Henderson Island. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. One of the only coral atolls left on Earth where the ecosystem is genuinely, completely untouched. And reaching it, well, here's where it stacks up. First, you have to reach Pitcairn, which means a cargo ship from New Zealand, 5 days at sea, running only a few times a year. There are no flights to Pitcairn, no commercial routes. You board in Mangareva, French Polynesia, and hope the schedule holds. Then, from Pitcairn, you take a small boat to Henderson, a boat that can only approach when conditions are calm, and the only landing spot is a narrow beach surrounded by razor-sharp coral and cliffs on both sides. If there's any swell at all, and there almost always is, you go back. The British government restricts access. Scientists need permits. Tourists are, for all practical purposes, not allowed. And here's the thing that stuck with me long after I finished researching this. Henderson Island has one of the highest densities of plastic pollution per square metre anywhere on Earth. This place, unreachable by almost every measure, gets found by the ocean every single day. Jan Mayen, Tristan da Cunha, Heard Island, Bouvet, Henderson. 5 islands. 5 completely different reasons the word impossible applies. Some are blocked by storms, some by law, some just by the sheer, indifferent size of the ocean between you and them. But all 5 share one thing: they're proof that this planet is still larger, stranger, and less conquered than we like to think.